It doesn't hit them right away. Avoidance don't break down the day you leave. They don't spiral the week you stop reaching out. In fact, at first they look completely fine. Almost too fine. They act calm, collected, even detached. You start to wonder if they ever cared at all. But trust me, the storm is coming. Because avoidance don't process loss in real time. They delay it, they bury it, they distract themselves until reality catches up. And when it does, it hits hard. This is Volume 8, Episode 25. When it finally hits your avoidant ex, regret timeline explained. The science, the psychology, the silence, all broken down step by step, so you'll never doubt again whether they feel it. Here's what most people get wrong. Avoidants don't miss you when you're gone. They miss you when your absence becomes real, when their distractions stop working, when their control no longer comforts them, when the silence stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling like punishment. It's not instant. It's not cinematic. It's slow, like water seeping through cracks they thought were sealed. That's the timeline of regret. At first, it's all ego. They feel powerful after the breakup, free, independent. They convince themselves they made the right choice. They tell their friends they needed space or peace. That's phase 1, the high. They're riding the illusion of control, posting, laughing, reconnecting, trying to prove to themselves that detachment means strength. But then comes phase 2, the quiet, when the messages stop, when they realize your name hasn't popped up in days, weeks, months, and for the first time, the silence doesn't feel comfortable. It feels empty. That's when their mind starts playing tricks. They tell themselves they'll reach out eventually, but time keeps passing, and you don't. That's when doubt enters the picture. By phase 3, the discomfort, they start feeling off balance. It's subtle at first. They'll scroll through your photos without liking anything. They'll check your stories, trying to act like they don't care. They'll ask mutual friends, how are they doing? But it's not curiosity. It's withdrawal. Because in psychology, this stage is called intermittent reinforcement withdrawal. They were addicted to your emotional response, the attention, the reassurance, the care. Even the arguments gave them proof that you still cared. Now, there's nothing. No reaction, no chase, no control. And that's when the high starts to crash. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But this is the stage where they lose that power, because for the first time, they can't control what happens next. They can't manipulate your silence. They can't decode your emotions. You've gone neutral, and neutrality is the one thing their ego can't handle. So now their peace turns into panic, their calm turns into chaos, and their detachment turns into despair. By phase 4, the collapse, they start to feel the full weight of it, the delayed heartbreak, the emotional hangover, the loneliness that hits when all the noise dies down. This is where they finally realize you're not angry anymore, you're not waiting, you're not chasing. You're free, and that's the most painful realization of all. They scroll through your old messages at 2 a.m. They replay memories like scenes from a movie. They overanalyze every moment they dismissed before, and it dawns on them, you weren't the problem. You were the piece they weren't ready to receive. Then comes phase 5, the regret. The moment they realize they lost someone rare, someone patient, someone real, they remember how you listened without judgment, how you stayed loyal when they withdrew, how you cared even when it cost you energy. They finally see that your calm wasn't weakness, it was power, and that power terrifies them now, because they know they'll never find it again. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That's the tragedy of the avoidant regret timeline. They waste months, sometimes years, trying to convince themselves they're over you, until they realize you were the only person who ever made home feel calm. But by the time that awareness hits, you're gone, not cold, not angry, just evolved. Here's the truth they'll never admit. It doesn't hit them when you leave. It hits when you stop looking back. When your glow-up doesn't include them. When your peace doesn't require closure. When your silence becomes the mirror that shows them everything they lost. That's when it hits. That's when they feel it. That's when the regret timeline turns into reality. Stay tuned. Because in this episode, we'll break down each stage of the avoidant regret timeline in detail. How long each one lasts, the exact signs to look for, and how to stay emotionally grounded while they spiral. And to everyone who's been following Volume 8, their breaking point, silence, replacement, and regret. Thank you. To every subscriber, every like, every Ace Wisdom family member, your discipline, your silence, your growth. That's what this series is all about. If this message hit home, drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. My silence is their lesson. Because one day they'll realize what they lost, but you'll already be living the peace they once took for granted. This is Ace Wisdom. Let's go deeper. Stay focused. Key point 1. The immediate aftermath. The illusion of freedom. The first stage of the avoidant regret timeline always looks the same. They seem fine, cold, detached, even relieved. You see them smiling on social media. You hear from mutual friends they're doing great. They seem lighter, more relaxed, almost liberated. And it stings, because it looks like they never cared. But that illusion of peace? It's not peace, it's denial. See, avoidants don't process pain directly. They repress it. They push it down beneath distractions, routine, and pride. Their entire nervous system is wired to disconnect from emotion as a survival mechanism. So right after the breakup, they don't grieve. They detach. They call it freedom. They call it peace. But it's really avoidance in disguise. This is phase 1 of the regret timeline, the illusion of freedom. Psychologists call this the deactivation stage. It's the mental high they feel when they finally escape emotional intensity. Their brain releases relief chemicals, dopamine, adrenaline, creating a temporary sense of empowerment. That's why they look calm. That's why they seem happy. That's why you start to question your own value. But it's a chemical trick. It doesn't last. In their mind, they're telling themselves, I made the right choice. I feel lighter without the pressure. I can focus on myself again. They fill their days with distractions, gym, work, parties, new conversations, anything that feels like movement, even if it's meaningless, because deep down they're trying to escape stillness, the stillness where the truth lives. They're not celebrating independence, they're running from reflection. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But avoidants do the opposite. They seek power through outside events, through control, through distraction, through distance. They think they're mastering their emotions by avoiding them, but all they're doing is delaying the inevitable crash. You'll notice this stage because it's performative. They overpost, they oversmile, they overdo everything. It's not healing, it's overcompensation. Their ego needs to prove that leaving didn't break them, that they can thrive without you, that they were never dependent, so they build the illusion. But the illusion has cracks. Late at night, when the distractions fade, they start to feel it. The silence creeps in, their thoughts get louder, and for the first time they realize you're not chasing, you're not calling, you're not explaining. At first it feels strange, then it feels unsettling, then it feels wrong, because avoidance can't survive without reassurance, and right now you're giving them none. Psychology calls this attachment disorientation. Their system was used to emotional predictability. You reaching out, you fixing things, you closing the gap. But when that cycle stops, their brain panics in quiet ways. They'll overthink why you're so calm. They'll analyze your silence. They'll look for signs that you still care. Not because they want to reconnect, but because they can't handle uncertainty. Your detachment feels like loss of control. And that's when the cracks in their freedom start to show. Here's the truth. They don't miss you yet. They miss how it felt to be desired by you. They miss your attention, your warmth, your consistency. But instead of acknowledging that, they double down on pride. They tell themselves, I'm fine. But internally, the void starts forming. And that void, that's the birthplace of regret. So if you see your avoidant ex looking unbothered right now, don't get fooled by the performance. The first stage of regret always looks like confidence, the calm before the collapse. Because peace built on pride isn't peace at all. It's temporary anesthesia. They think they escaped you, but what they really escaped was their only emotional anchor. And when the adrenaline wears off, when the distractions fade, that's when stage 2 begins. The silence starts echoing, the control starts slipping, and the realization starts whispering, maybe I just lost something real. Stay locked in, because in key point 2, we'll break down exactly when and how that illusion starts to crumble, the shift from fake peace to real panic, and the psychological signs that tell you it's finally hitting them. Key point 2, the cracks appear. When silence starts to hurt. This is where the illusion begins to crumble. The mask of calmness starts to slip. The I'm fine energy that looked convincing a few weeks ago suddenly doesn't feel so stable anymore. They told themselves they were free. They told everyone they were over it. But your silence, it's getting too loud to ignore. This is phase 2 of the regret timeline, the cracks in the calm. At first it's subtle, sleepless nights, overthinking, restlessness. They don't know why they feel off, because they've spent years running from emotion instead of sitting with it. But deep down, their nervous system is starting to recognize what the ego can't admit. They miss your energy. Not the texts, not the validation, the energy, the emotional stability you provided without even realizing it. Avoidants are addicted to emotional control. They crave space, but they still need the security of knowing you'll always be there. They love distance, but only if they're the ones creating it. That's the paradox. And when that dynamic collapses, when you stop reaching, stop explaining, stop chasing, it flips their psychology upside down. Because now they don't feel in control of the distance anymore. The silence isn't theirs, it's yours. And that reversal, that's when it starts to hurt. Psychologists call this moment the attachment panic trigger. It's when the avoidant brain realizes that disconnection has turned into disinterest. At first, they try to deny it. It's just a phase. They'll text soon. They always come back. But every day your silence continues, that belief gets harder to hold. They start to question their assumptions. They start wondering what changed. They start feeling what they once made you feel. Uncertainty. You'll see small signs of this shift if you're paying attention. They'll hover. Watch your stories like an old post. Ask a mutual friend a random question about you. It's not coincidence, it's subconscious craving, because avoidance doesn't erase attachment, it just delays it. And now, the delay period is over. Their emotional suppression is wearing off, and the silence is beginning to sting. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And right now, their thoughts are starting to darken. Not because you're gone, but because you're not reacting. Your calmness is the color they can't wash off. It's haunting, because it doesn't look like pain, it looks like peace, and that peace terrifies them, because it means you've accepted what they still resist, that it's over. By now their mind is looping. They scroll through your old messages. They hover on your profile but can't press follow. They wonder if you've met someone new. They won't say it out loud, but they're searching for signs of emotional access. They need to know if they could still get through to you, and when they can't find any, that's when panic starts to build. You see, for avoidance, control makes comfort. Losing control makes collapse. So when they realize they no longer influence your emotions, they start losing control of their own. They can't sleep right, they can't focus. Every small trigger brings your memory back, your laugh, your scent, the last thing you said before walking away. Their mind starts rewriting the story, not to move on, but to make sense of what they lost. Seneca once wrote, "There is no easy way from the earth to the stars, and this stage, it's their climb, the painful, humbling ascent out of denial, because now they're beginning to see what they refused to before. You weren't trying to control them. You were trying to connect with them, and their fear of vulnerability made them reject the very thing they needed most, emotional safety. They'll start romanticizing you in small bursts, replaying moments in their head, the way you laughed mid-argument, the way you stayed patient when they pulled away, the little things they once dismissed as too much. Now those same traits haunt them, because they realize those were signs of love, not pressure. And no one else gives them that same warmth. No one else provides that same peace. They're realizing they didn't just lose a partner, they lost emotional home. But here's the thing. They won't reach out yet. Not here. Not in this phase. They're still hoping you'll save them again. They're still hoping you'll break the silence. They're still trying to manage regret through avoidance. But it's too late. The silence is already reshaping them, and soon that panic will turn into realization. Because next comes key point 3, the collapse, when reality hits hard. That's when the pain they've been avoiding finally catches up. And every defense they built to stay numb turns into the very thing that breaks them. Stay locked in. That's where the real regret begins. Key point 3, the collapse, when reality finally hits. This is the breaking point. The stage every avoidant dreads, the collapse, because everything they've been running from, everything they've buried under silence, distraction and pride, finally catches up. The illusion of control is gone. The distractions stopped working. And now, for the first time since you walked away, they're completely alone with the truth. And the truth hurts. This is phase 3 of the regret timeline. The emotional collapse. It doesn't look like a meltdown from the outside. It's quieter than that. It's the 2 a.m. overthinking, the midday emptiness, the replaying of old memories that won't stop looping. They might still look fine to the world, still working, still posting, still smiling. But behind that image is emotional chaos. Because the silence that used to empower them has turned into their greatest punishment. Avoidants spend their lives believing they can outrun emotion, but emotion always collects its debt. And this is the moment the bill comes due. They start to feel what they've done, the weight of your absence, the loss of your energy, the realization that this time you're not coming back. It's no longer about missing you. It's about regret. regret for what they didn't say, regret for what they didn't appreciate, regret for how they pushed away someone who actually cared. Psychologists call this the delayed emotional flood. It's what happens when suppressed feelings finally overflow, and for avoidants it's devastating because their brain is wired for control, and this moment is pure emotional chaos. They can't escape it through distraction anymore. The replacements don't work. The new people feel empty. The silence feels heavy, and their thoughts feel loud. They start realizing what you tried to tell them all along. Connection isn't a threat. It's a need. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events, but for them it's the opposite now. Their mind is the battlefield. Every thought turns into a trigger. Every reminder of you becomes a wave of guilt. Because you're not chasing anymore. You're not reacting. You're not even angry. You're indifferent. And that indifference cuts deeper than heartbreak. This is when they start spiraling in silence. They scroll through your old texts just to feel something familiar. They stare at your profile but can't bring themselves to engage. They type messages and delete them. They want to reach out, but pride stops them. They want relief, but fear paralyzes them. Because reaching out means admitting defeat, and that's the one thing an avoidant can't stomach easily. But their ego is cracking, slowly, painfully, inevitably. You can't bury emotion forever, and the longer they suppressed it, the stronger it hits now. They realize they're not free, they're lost. They're not peaceful, they're empty, they're not detached, they're disconnected. The silence they once weaponized has now turned into a mirror they can't escape. Seneca once wrote, "It is part of the cure to wish to be cured." That's what this stage becomes for them. A confrontation with the part of themselves they've been avoiding. They finally wish they could fix it. They wish they could go back and handle things differently. They wish they hadn't mistaken your care for control, because now they understand what your silence actually meant. It wasn't a game, it was growth. You didn't walk away to punish them. You walked away because you outgrew the dynamic. And that realization destroys their ego completely. You'll see it in their eyes if you ever cross paths again. They won't look as confident. They'll hesitate when they speak. Their tone will be softer, slower, uncertain, because behind that guarded exterior is someone who finally feels the cost of their avoidance. They finally know what they lost. Not a partner, not attention, not validation, but peace. Your peace. The peace they once took for granted. The peace they'll spend years trying to recreate in other people and never find again. And here's the irony. This is the moment they truly see your worth, but it's also the moment you've already moved on. Because while they were suppressing, you were healing. While they were pretending, you were evolving. While they were escaping, you were becoming. This is the hardest stage for them, and the most powerful one for you, because it proves what they denied all along. You were never the unstable one. You were the anchor, the constant, the calm in their storm. And once the calm is gone, the storm consumes them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's what your silence did. It became the way. Their greatest obstacle turned into their greatest awakening, because the pain they feel now isn't caused by you leaving. It's caused by them realizing they made you. You gave them peace, and they chose distance. You gave them love, and they chose fear. You gave them presence, and they chose pride. And now they're left with absence. This is the exact moment the avoidant collapse turns into full-blown regret, when the silence becomes unbearable, when the reality sinks deep, and when the question hits them like thunder, did I just lose the best thing I ever had? Stay locked in, because in Key Point 4, We'll break down the final transformation, how regret turns into obsession, and how your calm indifference becomes the one thing they can't stop thinking about, no matter how much time passes. The moment. It finally sinks in. And that's it. The full timeline, from denial to silence to collapse. The long, slow descent of the avoidant ex who thought they'd never feel a thing. They thought they could outrun emotion. They thought distance made them strong. They thought silence meant power. But now it's quiet, too quiet. And in that silence they finally hear what they tried to ignore all along. Your absence isn't a phase, it's forever. They scroll through your old photos again, hoping to feel a spark. But it's not nostalgia anymore, it's realization. The kind that hits too late because you've changed. You're not waiting for a text. You're not checking their page. You're not wondering if they'll ever get it. You become something they'll never be able to reach again, emotionally unavailable to the past, and deeply aligned with your peace. That's what finally breaks them. Not the silence, not the distance, but your evolution. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And you've begun to live again. No longer controlled by their inconsistency, no longer trying to decode mixed signals, no longer loving from a place of survival. You've learned that silence isn't a weapon, it's wisdom, and the longer you hold that peace, the louder their regret becomes, because they can't find you in anyone else. They can only find reminders of what they ruined. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." That's what this entire timeline represents, the end of their comfort zone and the beginning of your power era. Because now you know you don't chase what's confused, you don't beg what's blind, you don't fight for a connection that doesn't fight for you. You embody peace. You protect energy. You walk away knowing that love doesn't need convincing, it needs reciprocity. And that's what makes your silence sacred. To everyone who's been walking through Volume 8, their breaking point, silence, replacement and regret, thank you. You've grown. You've healed. And, most importantly, you've learned the one truth most people never do. Closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you. To every subscriber, every Ace Wisdom channel member, every person who hit play tonight. Your strength built this movement. Your silence became your power. And if this episode spoke to you, drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications for the next one, and comment below. My peace is permanent. Say it not for them, but as a declaration to yourself, because once you master silence, you never chase noise again. They'll remember you every time peace feels unfamiliar. They'll think of you every time chaos feels empty. And they'll regret you, not because you are hard to love, but because you loved them the way no one else ever will. This is Ace Wisdom. And as always, stay grounded, stay unbothered, and keep evolving. Peace and power.